Hey guys, let's get more news about Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Miami Heat acquire Milwaukee Bucks star in proposed Jimmy Butler trade. Jimmy Butler's name is dominating the NBA headlines right now. Having recently returned from a suspension, he has been suspended by the Miami Heat once again. Butler wants to leave Miami. There is absolutely zero doubt about that. Now, it remains to be seen if a trade can be engineered before the deadline. There are not too many teams in the league who are willing or capable of taking on Butler's contract. His age and injury history make a trade even more difficult to pull off. The Phoenix Suns are pretty much the only team to have been consistently linked with Butler since he made it clear that he was looking to leave the Heat. But other teams might need to be involved as well in order to facilitate a trade. Bill Simmons came up with a 4-team trade that would involve Butler heading to Phoenix. He said on his podcast, "Well, the trade I came up with was Butler to the Suns, Beal to the Bucks, Miami gets Chris Middleton, Steven Adams from Houston and Cam Whitmore from Houston, and Houston gets Brook Lopez, and that actually works." Of course, a lot depend on Bradley Beal as well and whether he is ready to play ball and leave the Suns, as he has a no-trade clause. In the past, it has been suggested that the Heat are not particularly keen on Beal. In Simmons' proposed trade, he would end up in Milwaukee. One could question whether the Bucks would be interested in Beal. We have seen him struggle as the third option behind Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in Phoenix. He might have to play a very similar role for the Bucks, who already have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard, two of the best scorers in the league. Then there are the question marks around Middleton, who looks like a shell of the player he was in his All-Star days after struggling with injuries. Randy's been his co-pilot for 22 years, inside the life of LeBron James' fixer. Barely a month into his first season with the Miami Heat, LeBron James' supernova trajectory, from the number 1 pick in 2003 to a Cinderella run to the 2007 finals to 2 NBA MVPs, had stalled. But he wasn't just losing. He was lonely. His then-girlfriend and now wife, Savannah, and their 2 boys, Bronny and Bryce, were still living in Cleveland, some 1,300 miles away. His jerseys were being burned across Northeast Ohio. For the first time in his career, he was a villain, a heel. He was staying at the Four Seasons, but as swanky as his suite was, no thread count on the sheets or pristine view of Biscayne Bay would change the fact that James was living in a hotel, not a home. His mind was spiraling. His decision just a few months earlier to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, the franchise that drafted him as a teenager to play just 45 minutes from his hometown in Akron, Ohio, already felt like the wrong one. He picked up the phone and dialed someone he knew would answer, someone who for nearly a decade had done so, his longtime confidant, Randy Mims. "I'm coming over," James told him. "I need to talk to you." It was just after 3 in the morning. Mims hardly had enough time to throw on clothes as James made the 10-minute drive from his hotel to Mims' place in nearby Coconut Grove. When Mims emerged from his front door, he found a burgundy Bentley Arnage in the driveway. James, just 25 at the time, had parked himself on the hood. He was crying. "I'm not sure I'm doing this right," James said. "I'm not sure I made the right decision to come here." Mims approached him. He didn't bring up how he'd moved away from his wife and family to Florida for a job with the Heat that hadn't materialized. He didn't mention being jarred from his sleep either. He offered encouragement, asked him questions. He wasn't talking to the chosen one. He was consoling a friend, a kid who used to borrow Mims' polo uniforms when he sold pagers at Singular Wireless and wear them to St. Vincent St. Mary to pass the high school's dress code. "You got this, man," Mims told James. "We're going to figure this whole thing out." "I get it. It's a little new for you." Mims knew exactly what to say. "It was just a lot of that was just going on in my head," James told ESPN of that night. "I was still young. I was questioning myself. I know I probably startled the F out of him at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I pulled up and I told him to come outside, and I literally sat on the hood of my car. He came out and we just talked things through. Maverick Carter, who was a high school teammate of James and now heads up his entertainment company, Uninterrupted, says the late-night visit was a pivot point in James' career. Those are massive moments when you can seek someone you admire, someone you appreciate their words, and someone who's enough of a good human being, but a realist to help you realize, okay, how do I handle this? Carter told ESPN. We've all been through things in our life, and if you are around someone who gives bad advice or handles it wrong or thinks about themselves in those moments, it can go really bad for someone. James remembers that night and agrees, I needed him in that moment and he came through for me. Says Mims, the rest is history. From there, he took off. We never had them conversations again. 15 years have passed. James has made it to 9 more NBA Finals, including 8 in a row from 2011 to 2018. He has won 4 championships, 4 Finals MVPs, 2 more league MVPs, and passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He turned 40 last month and was serenaded happy birthday by the 4 Los Angeles Lakers rookies, including his son, Bronny, the first father-son duo to share the court in the sport. He signed a lifetime deal with Nike in 2015, and his net worth swelled over $1 billion in 2022, according to Forbes. Jimmy Butler's exit from Miami Heat as Suns emerge as trade frontrunners. Jimmy Butler has made it clear that he wants to leave the Miami Heat. With the trade deadline approaching, the Heat organization is eager to resolve this issue quickly. The Phoenix Suns seem to be the only team actively pursuing Butler, making them the front-runner in any potential deal. Phoenix Suns preparing for potential trade. In preparation for a potential Butler trade, the Phoenix Suns have made moves to secure additional draft capital. This strategy signals that the Suns are positioning themselves as strong contenders to acquire the all-star forward. On paper, the trade looks straightforward. Butler joins the Suns, and the deal benefits all parties involved. However, the reality of finalizing a trade for Butler is far more complicated. Finding a suitable trade package isn't easy, and it's likely that a third team will need to get involved to make it work. This is where the Los Angeles Lakers could play a crucial role in facilitating the deal. Role of the Los Angeles Lakers: the Lakers could act as a mediator in a 3-team trade scenario. A proposed deal would have the Suns acquiring Butler, while the Heat would land Bradley Beal, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and a future first-round pick. In return, the Lakers would acquire Terry Rozier and a future first-round pick. The trade would rely on Bradley Beal waiving his no-trade clause, which could be a stumbling block. While Beal has had struggles with the Suns, his ability to score consistently in the right system could benefit the Heat if Butler departs. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Jimmy Butler? Leave your opinion in the comments.